right, Mad Cow, formerly Pineapple, that is you. When did you start having these crazy symptoms? How old were you, and what year was it?
It was 2019. I was 16 years old in my junior year of high school, first semester. It was about September of that year when I first noticed them. And they started off as these really quick, super fast headaches that were super intense. And they would come and be there for just a few seconds, and they'd go away. And it was like all over that I was feeling them, but mainly in here and kind of almost behind my eyes. And I guess the end of September is when I finally told my brother that, hey, some funny stuff has been happening. And he told me that, if you're losing your vision, that's cause to go to a doctor. And so later that day, I told my mom.
And what's the first thing that we did?
The first thing that we did, we went to my pediatrician first.
What she think was wrong?
She told me that I was dehydrated, and she sent me home with an electrolyte solution and also set me up with a cardiologist appointment. Well, when I was at the cardiologist, I had an echocardiogram.
What's that?
It's basically just an ultrasound of your heart. So they took a look at my heart, and then they hooked me up to that heart monitor.
Mm-hmm. And you wore the heart monitor for how long?
24 hours.
24. And do you remember what Disney character they said the inside of your heart looked like when it was dancing on the screen when they were doing your echocardiogram?
That one character from Beauty and the Beast?
Yes!
What was his name?
The mirror.
The mirror?
The mirror, the candlestick.
Yeah, the candlestick from Beauty and the Beast.
So while we were waiting on the cardiologist, who did we go see?
We went to go see an optometrist who didn't find anything that wasn't there already. I have a corneal nevus, which is just like a little eye freckle.
An eye freckle. Corneal nevus.
You can't see it, but it's
You're so cool.
I don't even remember which eye it's on.
Yeah, me neither, actually. While we were sitting here waiting for all of this to transpire and figure out what was going on, we went to Woody Gap after your SATs.
Yes, we did.
Explain that trip.
Well, the whole trip, okay, as soon as I finished my SATs, we left the testing facility, got in the car, drove, and ended up at Woody Gap. Our car was about 100 feet away from where we were staying that night. We didn't really do any hiking. It was a very chaotic first night. It was cold and it was windy, and we tried to...
It was freezing!
And we tried to start a fire, and we had brought these hot dogs with us and had it in our heads that we were going to grill hot dogs and chow down. But, no. The wind was too strong. The fire was blowing this way, and we had to, douse all of our water on it, and thank God that we had extra water in the car and that it was only 100 feet away. We lost many, many things.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So we learned that small things that we hike with need to be brightly colored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our lighter is now orange.
Yes.
Yes. We lost a lighter. We lost a rubber band. We lost...
a tent stake, I think.
Tent stake, yeah.
And they were all right there at our feet underneath the fall leaves.
And we just left them.
We couldn't find them.
Some other hiker needed them.
There you go. Trail magic.
Trail magic.
All right.
Made it to Preacher's Rock, went over Blood Mountain where we could see the whole Atlanta skyline, which is pretty amazing. And I guess that's kind of it for that trip.
All right. So after that trip, things kind of started to transpire quickly. You took a trip down to the ER, huh?
Yeah.
Then that's when it really got rolling. What happened at school?
It was my third period astronomy class. At this point, all of my teachers knew that there was something going on. Obviously, they didn't know what the problem was yet, but they knew to just keep an eye on me. And I had a designated buddy in each class. And in astronomy, I walked in. I had coffee that morning. I'm pretty sure that's what caused my hands shaking crazy. I couldn't stop them. I was super dizzy. I could barely see straight. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't see at all. And to top it all off, I was crazy dizzy. I had just stepped off a merry-go-round. The room wouldn't stop spinning. I wouldn't stop feeling like I was spinning. It was a very scary experience. And I was able to make it to my desk before my vision went bad. I nudged my buddy, my then buddy, now boyfriend, And I was like, hey, something's not right. Can you get the teacher? And my other friend, Hannah, who was standing in front of my desk, and she didn't know what was going on, so shout out, Hannah. But she went over and got the teacher for me. And she called up to the office and said, hey, we have a kid who's experiencing some major medical problems, and just get the wheelchair ready or something. And my now boyfriend took my book bag and helped me out of the class and was walking me towards the office. But we did not make it. I couldn't catch my balance, and I had grabbed onto the back of his shirt, and I don't actually remember going down, but there was 1 second where I was standing up, and the next I was on the floor. And then my dad came and picked me up and took me to the ER.
All right. Yeah. And in the ER, they hooked you up to an EKG machine?
Mm-hmm.
And how fast was your heart rate?
It was in the 170s.
Yeah.
That's pretty high.
It was. What did you go home with a preliminary diagnosis from the emergency room visit?
They told me that they believed I had what is known as POTS syndrome, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's basically where when you go from one position to another, from sitting to standing, it's very difficult for you. You struggle a lot with breathing and heart rate. It's very detrimental to everyday life. But because it's a neurological diagnosis and I didn't have any doctors specializing in neurology around at that time, nobody could actually give me a diagnosis for it, so I went home with no answers that day.
But then the very next day, that's when we got the call from the cardiologist, and your brother whisked you away. You were trying to eat your ramen with all the salt, right?
Yes. So they told us because I had POTS, I should increase my intake of salt, or because I had POTS, should increase my salt intake. And so the next day I was making myself a bowl of ramen. And my brother...
As she always did.
And my mom called my brother. My brother came downstairs and he said, hey, you got to go to the hospital. And I said, darn, can I have my ramen first? And he said no. And then he made me go upstairs, grab my stuff, and we went to the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a day after my ER visit, so almost a week after my cardiology visit, you got a call.
And she said that you were normal, your heart rate was normal. And I said, well, she was just in the ER yesterday, and she had an episode of, tachycardia. Her heart rate was 150s, 170s. She said, well, wait a minute, let me see. And she looked back, she said 170s. I said, well, that's not normal. And I hung the phone up.
And then you called my pediatrician again and was like, hey, here's the deal. They said this is normal, but I know it's not. And the pediatrician was like, get that girl to a hospital.
That's right.
Yeah. It was...
it was a whirlwind, huh?
It was a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the hospital and the ER was full, so I was getting checked out and admitted on a little stretcher in the hallway. So when I finally got admitted into a room, there was at least 3 med students per doctor. And there were at least 3 doctors in my room. It was very, very crowded. And people kept filtering in and out, I guess coming from all different branches and departments and asking me the same questions over and over. And it was very stressful. One guy flipped me upside down. It was a crazy night. At midnight that night, I had an MRI. And at 10 o'clock the next morning, I had an EEG, which is testing for epilepsy. And then at noon that day is when I got that diagnosis. A team of doctors came in, they wheeled in a little TV with them, and they told me that they had noticed an abnormality on my MRI. And I was like, an abnormality? That's funny. And it was just me and my dad in the room. So...
I had gone to go get you some hair stuff to get all those stickies out of your hair from the EEG.
Insert picture here.
Yeah.
But they told me they saw an abnormality, and what it was is Chiari Malformation. They showed me my MRI and told me where my cerebellum should be and then where it actually was. So what had happened was my cerebellum had, in a sense, collapsed into my spinal canal and was lodged in between my medulla oblongata and my skull, which was causing, pressure and damage on my medulla oblongata and also blocking the flow of cerebrospinal fluid.
Not good.
Not good. Definitely not good. This is what was causing my heart rate and my inability to control my breathing. It's what was causing the dizziness, and the vision loss was never really explained. But Chiari Malformation symptoms are so wide and various, you're not going to know that you have it until you get that MRI. So that was the diagnosis. You came back to a room full of concerned cases.
Yeah, I sure did. Oh, goodness.
I bet that was scary.
It was, yeah.
And and then they told me what my options were. That I could go for a symptomatic treatment, being medicine to help with the dizziness and the pain. Dizziness and what else?
Dizziness.
The heart rate, shortness of breath, right.
Yeah. Which really. We kind of figured quickly that wasn't going to be an option because how severe and how quickly your symptoms progressed over
very quickly.
It was only 3 weeks, but we felt like it was 3 months at least. We were in the middle of it, but yeah.
And then they told me I could do surgery, and yeah. That was it.
We met with the surgeon, and December 18th was a big day.
It all just happened so fast.
On December 18th, 2019, surgery was done to remove a small piece of bone at the base of her skull, as well as a portion of the covering of her brain called the dura mater. They also performed a C1 laminectomy and cauterized what's known as the tonsils of the cerebellum, which is what was protruding down her spinal column, compressing her brainstem and causing all of her symptoms. But 5 months later, after an intense recovery and the lockdown of the world from COVID, she was back on trail and enjoying beautiful views once again from Siler's Bald and Wyatt Fire Tower with no problems. Fast forward to 2022, and she's completed over 600 miles of trail. She just had too much brain to contain.
She's gotta get ready. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Happy trails! Adapt and conquer. That's cute.
Blood Mountain, here we come. Give me a thumbs up, Sarah. Ow. What? Give me a thumbs up.